So once again, I'm Tim Thomas. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Mohawk Valley Community College. Sort of a strange title for a community college. So I'll give you a job function number one is to be creative within loosely defined boundaries, and job title number two is to do other duties as assigned. So a little background on Mohawk Valley Community College. We are located in beautiful and sunny greater Rome, Utica, New York State, right in the middle of Oneida County, which has a population of approximately 230,000 people. So it's a small county. We were founded in 1946 as the first community college in New York State as a technical college. So we have our roots in workforce development, and since 1946 we have proudly been very workforce forward and responsive to the needs of our regional and statewide employer partners. We have approximately 6,000 full and part-time students, and those individuals are interspersed between 90 different degree and certificate programs. But we also have a very large, what was historically our non-credit division, where we serve an additional 6,000 students. So if you're not familiar with the SUNY system in New York State, there are 30 total community colleges. We're about middle of the pack enrollment wise for our credit programs, but for our historic non-credit programs, we are the third largest in the SUNY system. We have a very forward-thinking president, Randy Van Wagner, and I don't know if he gets around there, so you may have seen him in some presentation at one point or another. And we've been lucky that he's been president of MVCC for the last 15 plus years. And in that 15 years, he's done his darndest to create a culture that allows us to disrupt ourselves. And one example of that disruption is the process that we undertook in order to get out in front of this whole micro-credentialing thing. So back in spring of 2016, and at that point I was a chemistry faculty member at the college. I remember a group of 2 returning adult students came into my office and they said, "Hey Tim, we really need to do this like micro-credentialing thing." And I looked at Carlos and John, again, 2 students, and I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." But they quickly upskilled me, and they taught me about the micro-credentialing movement. And our conversations over the result of a couple of weeks in that spring that led to the 3 of us writing a white paper. The 2 students and myself presented that white paper to our college senate. College senate then tasked our faculty caucus to develop a policy. Over the course of the next 2 years, our micro-credentialing policy went through our shared governance processes. And then in spring 2018, our board of trustees approved a micro-credential policy, which was the first micro-credentialing policy in New York State. So if I take myself back 5-ish years to spring 2018, or even further to spring 2016, at that point, we were thinking that micro-credentialing was the solution. But since that time, we've learned that there is not one solution. There are many solutions. So there's a potpourri of solutions. So at the same time that we are having our micro-credentialing conversations, New York State starts killing it in the economic development. So Utica Rome had been in a steady state of decline since the 1950s. In the 1990s, we lost a major Air Force base. GE moved out of town. Chicago Pneumatics moved down south. And as a result of those employers leaving, the overall population of Oneida County had declined by 20% from the 90s until today. The good jobs in the county had also been on a steady state of decline. But New York State has been investing in building out a semiconductor ecosystem in New York State, specifically along the Thruway corridor of New York State, since 1994. In 2006, the first big major win occurred where Global Foundries, which is a major semiconductor company, set up a fab right outside of Albany. And that fab currently employs about 4,500 people in semiconductor manufacturing. In 2019, Wolfspeed, which is a silicon carbide semiconductor company, built a fab 8 miles from our campus in Marcy, New York, and at full ramp, they will employ about 1,000 people. We have Indium Corporation, which employed, before the pandemic, 1,000 people. Through the pandemic, they grew their workforce by 40%. So now they have 1,400 employees. Semicron Danfoss, they do advanced packaging in the semiconductor space. They have a facility located right outside of Utica, New York. And then most recently, Micron announced the construction of a mega fab about a 40-minute drive from our campus, where at full build will include 4.8 million square feet of manufacturing space, 2.4 million square feet of clean room manufacturing space. It will require 9,000 direct employees and have an impact of 60,000 new jobs ecosystem-wide. That Micron project is happening outside of Syracuse, New York. Syracuse has a population of about 140,000 people. So when you add 60,000 new jobs into a city that has 140,000 total person population, it is going to be an absolutely transformative project. So we're seeing in New York State a real uptick in economic development. But at the same time, we're seeing an uptick in economic development. We, as is similar with the rest of the United States, is facing this demographic drought. Overall, the total fertility rate for women in the U.S. in 2017 was 1.77 births per woman, which is well below the replacement fertility rate of 2.1 births per woman. Also, the participation in the labor force has been in a steady state of decline for the last 20 years, and the prime age male participation rate in the labor force has been in a state of decline for the last 50 years. So in New York State, especially the historic Rust Belt cities of New York State, we're seeing economic growth, we're seeing the number of jobs increase, but at the same time, we're seeing our population decline. So it sets up this paradigm where we recognize that we needed to act pretty quickly in order to make sure that that our positive momentum in economic development could be sustained. So this is where Fast Track comes into play. So because of this ecosystem that developed, we decided that we really needed to double down on incremental credentials. And before this, it was, our focus was on traditional degree programs, traditional non-credit programs, maybe a little bit of micro-credentials, but we weren't discussing incremental credentials. And we were able to launch our Fast Track Careers Initiative through a $500,000 influx of funding from our county sponsor. And that $500,000 was very unrestricted training money. And it was, here's $500,000 to stand up Fast Track Career Initiatives. You have to spend all $500,000 on people, on training people. At the same time, New York State was having a conversation about modifying the state financial aid, which is called TAP. And that led to, part-time TAP is going to fund non-credit programs. So when the state made that announcement, the SUNY system pushed out to all of the colleges and said, which of your non-credit programs should be eligible for part-time state financial aid? With the one caveat that if the non-credit program is eligible for state financial aid, if the student decides to matriculate, that non-credit experience has to convert into credit. So when we received that message from the SUNY system, there was a group of us actually sitting in the office that I'm sitting in now, and we started exploring what our opportunities were to take advantage of this change. we've always run, like I mentioned before, we've always been very workforce forward, and we've always had credit-bearing degree and certificate programs in welding, machining, mechatronics. So some traditionally very applied workforce heavy programming. So at one point during that TAP conversation, we came up with this, I'm going to say, brilliant idea, or let's take one of our credit welding courses and let's make that one credit welding course a non-credit course. And since we know that the student learning outcomes in those two experiences are going to be the same, if the non-credit student does the welding experience using TAP for non-credit programming, if they matriculate into our welding program, we have just a clear pathway from non-credit to credit. And we thought we were onto something. But then we looked at our funding formula and we realized that if we were pushing people towards non-credit programming, and in New York State, we don't get any state aid for individuals who do non-credit programming. We only get state aid for individuals who do credit programming. We're actually leaving revenue for the college on the table. So we said, time out, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that. But that allowed us to start thinking about, why don't students just take that one welding course? What are the barriers? And I remember us having conversations of what person who wants to learn welding, who wants to learn MIG and TIG welding, is going to open up the college catalog, flip to page 230, see MT270, MIG and TIG welding, monkey around with all of our credit-bearing onboarding processes to get access to a single course, to buy the book, to buy all the equipment necessary to do that one course. Nobody's going to do that, right? So it allowed us to look at our onboarding processes and to come up with a way where we could brand it differently to try to capture that one-off student. The historic paradigm in community colleges go after, in New York State anyways, go after training dollars, get a big training grant, get funded, brand a new program, have challenges branding that program, finally get a little branding traction, start getting people who show interest in that program. When they show interest, you have to tell them, oh, actually, we can't service you because you don't live in 13501. You're not in the lowest quintile of economic bracket. Or in order for us to service you, you have to give us tax documentation for the last 5 years. So it's just barrier after barrier after barrier. We struggle for a couple of years to get enrollment. Grant's near the end of its lifespan. Spend down as quickly as possible because we don't want to give the money back to the state or federal government, and then rinse and repeat. So the new paradigm with Fast Track is the brand. Behind the scenes, we have all of these different funding streams, whether it's federal DOL, whether it's SUNY money, whether it's state money, whether it's community foundation money, whether it's Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, whether it's apprenticeship funds. So we just have all of these funding streams, but most importantly, we have that 500,000 of very unrestricted county training dollars. So because of this, we've created a system where we have 35 different fast track programs. And I say 35, but it could be 35 today, it could be 20 tomorrow, it could be 37 the next day, just based upon all these different variables that are changing. And because we have all these funding streams, we can just say, doors wide open. Training for everybody, not going to cost you anything. And then behind the scenes, we figure out which of these funding sources is going to pay for the individual. 99 times out of 100, we have a restricted funding source that can pay for somebody. That 1% where we don't, county funding kicks in and just pays the bill. So going back to let's talk some specific examples about fast track programs. So we have some fast track programs that are just non-credit. We have some fast track programs that are just credit courses. We have some fast track programs that are a combination of credit or non-credit. And when the student's getting onboarded, we don't tell them what is what, because they don't care about credit or non-credit. What they care about is I can get a job in 14 weeks or less if I engage in this training experience. We don't onboard anybody through our historic credit-bearing onboarding systems. We don't make people fill out an application. We have this whole thing built in our what historically has been our non-credit division. So a different registration system. It's much more user-friendly than our credit system. When the student finds a course they want to take, they just click on it. It goes to a checkout, just like you would find on Amazon. When you check it out, you're going to see that this course costs $1,500, but there's a $1,500 discount. It's going to cost you $0. You're going to have to create a user account. In that, when you create the account, we're going to capture your name, your address, your date of birth, phone number, and email. And then immediately, we're going to call you. And in that call, we're going to get all the other information that we need from you in order to set you up in our college information system to get you a student ID. Once we get you a student ID, we're going to register you for the coursework. We're then going to follow up with a schedule, and we're going to tell you, show up in Science and Technology Building Room 120 on Tuesday at 5. And that turned into the most explosive soft launch ever. So we try a lot of stuff like this, and usually it turns into a trickle of a couple of students. But we launched Fast Track late November, early December. And between November of 2022 and January of 2023, we onboarded over 250 students into Fast Track programs. So I don't know if you were around yesterday, but I heard our student Monica did a nice job. And I want to talk through what Monica experienced. So again, historic paradigm. If you are a working adult and you're a working adult in, let's say, low wage retail, and you have 3 kids and you want to become a teacher, historic paradigm, there is no pathway for you. Right? You need to maintain your job. You can't leave the workforce for 5 to 6 years in order to do the schooling that's required in order to become a teacher. You just can't do it. New paradigm is fast track. Right? So let's play out Monica. So Monica, come to Mohawk Valley Community College, engage in our teacher assistant fast track program. It's a 24-hour program, 1 week. On day 1 of that program, you're going to hear from a retired superintendent. You're also going to hear from a leader from one of our human service agencies. And you're going to learn about job opportunities in both of those different sectors. That's going to happen in the morning. In the afternoon, you're going to have a resume writing workshop and you're going to have an interview workshop. Day 1's done. Day 2, 3, and 4, you are going to take a 1 credit hour ED 151 course. We are not going to tell you that you're taking a credit bearing course because you don't care about that. But what is important to you is that you are going to fulfill and take the 3 workshops that New York State Ed says are required in order for you to work as a teacher assistant in the state. On day 5, we are going to put you on a yellow bus and we're going to drive you to the fingerprinting center, where we are going to pay $104 for each of you using our credit card for you to get fingerprinted. We're then going to put you on a computer screen. You're going to sign up for the state certification exam. Again, we're going to use our credit card to pay another $104 for you to sign up for that state certification exam. Then in the afternoon, we're going to bring all of our school district partners into the room and they are going to interview you. Now, we know that there's such a shortage in teacher assistants that you're all going to get job offers because you are better prepared than just the random person off the street. So after this 24-hour program that all takes place in 1 week that costs you nothing, we are allowing you to go from one low-wage job to another low-wage job. But this second low-wage job of teacher assistant has much better benefits than your first low-wage job. And most importantly, has a great pathway to a living wage career, right? So they all had a great experience in 24 hours. And then we say, don't stop there. Don't stop there. Come back to MVCC, do another fast track program. This fast track program it's actually a micro credential. Childhood education phase one micro-credential, where you're gonna take 3 credit courses. Those 3 credit courses will give you 9 additional credits that can be added to the 1 credit that you got from your teacher assistant program. Those 10 credits can apply to degree if you choose so in the future. But most importantly, those credits, that 1 micro-credential is going to allow you to transition from level 1 teacher assistant to level 2 teacher assistant. Written into all of our teachers' contracts, pay raise. Don't stop there, come back. We have another fast track program for you. 3 more college courses, 9 more credits, all can be applied to degree. It allows you to transition from level 2 teacher assistant to level 3 teacher assistant, pay raise. At this point, you have 19 credits under your belt. You've built self-efficacy, and we can have conversations with you about, hey, you should matriculate in our associate's degree program. You know, you're still low income. You're going to get full Pell and full TAP. You're not going to pay anything out of pocket. Courses are offered during the evening and online, so you can maintain your job as a teacher assistant. When you're done with the associate's degree, don't stop there. We have a great partnership with SUNY Oneonta. They offer a teacher prep bachelor's degree on our campus. They're going to offer courses at a time that are convenient that it's convenient for you. You don't have to leave your teacher assistant job. Your district will pay for your tuition for SUNY Oneonta because that's written in your contract. So we've built this whole pathway from low wage job to teacher, and at the foundation are 3 separate fast track programs that all stack. We have funding that can pay for the teacher assistant fast track program, as well as the phase 1 and phase 2 micro credentials. And at that point, that's when federal and state financial aid or employer benefit will kick in. So we launched the teacher assistant fast track program this summer. We didn't market a lick for it, and we got 125 people sign up for it. And now anywhere you go in our community, so in our little county of 230,000 people, every school has graduates from our teacher assistant fast track program working as teacher assistants currently. We have many other pathways. So we have a public safety pathway that starts with an 8-hour security, New York State security guard course. It goes all the way through a criminal justice AAS degree that allows people to be hired as police officers. So there's Department of Criminal Justice Service certifications built in there. We have a human service pathway that starts with a 1-week training that will prepare people for entry-level work as direct support professionals. We then stack 2 micro-credentials on top of that, which can lead to national certification through NADSP, leads to wage increases along the way with employers. And then that leads to our human service degree, and it can lead to transfer to a bachelor's degree at our local SUNY 4-year partner in a program in community and behavioral health. We have many microelectronics pathways that are very technician focused. We're chewing on a healthcare pathway that doesn't necessarily tell quite as good of a story because of the licensure involved, but in essence, it's get a job as a unit assistant, get paid low wage, immediately get a passport from Mohawk Valley Health Systems to engage in CNA training, 120 hours, get a wage increase, get another passport from MVHS, engage in LPN training, get another passport from MVHS, get paid training for an RN degree. And we have similar pathways in computer security and networking. The nice thing about the fast track program is that it doesn't require, none of these programs require SUNY or state ed approval because they are not degree programs. Since we don't have to go through the approval process, it allows us to be ultimately agile to the available funding sources and to the needs of the employers in our area. So to date, we have trained over 700 people. And just for perspective, going back to the beginning, we have 6,000 total students, right? So this is a huge percentage of our population. Completion rate of the programs is 75%, which well exceeds our standard 3-year graduation rate. 69% of the students are 25 years or older. our traditional population, our normal non-fast track population, about 30% of our students are 25 or older. 60% of the students are students of color. Our pre-fast track population, about 37% of the students are students of color. And we've taken that $500,000 from the county and we've leveraged it into almost $2 million in additional training funding already, but then have access to WIOA funding and work closely with our workforce development board to just tap into all of their resources, and that's not included in that $2 million. Many opportunities for high school engagement, won't go into that here. But then the two guiding questions: what mechanisms can colleges implement to maximize incremental credentials, efficiency to advance students' social mobility? I'm not gonna go through an answer, but we talked through that. And how can credited and non-credited experiences be combined? And I think that it's that combination that's so wonderful, because it's a way for us to mandate essential supports that we know students don't do voluntary. So going back to that teacher assistant example, the resume writing workshop and the interview workshop was so important. We mandated that by just packaging it into the program. And I think it went well. So with that, and I'm sure we're short on time, but with that, I'm happy to take any questions before we're kicked out.